Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. Come on children, let's go to a new lesson in standard 5th. Subject will be scholarship and today we will be doing a lesson in scholarship English. Okay, and we are going to continue with what we were doing last time. Remember, we were doing topics based on noun, verb, etc. and it was part of which syllabus? It was part of grammar. We talked about types of noun, we talked about pronouns, and in this particular lesson we will do the next part in your grammar topic. That is, we will be talking about lesson number 3.3 from your textbook, that is adjectives, and we will be talking about degrees of comparison in particular. Okay, but we are going to do adjectives. Not only we are not going to talk about the types of adjectives, etc. We are going to touch upon the degrees of comparison in adjectives and what are the various rules when you have to make the degrees of comparison, when you have to write words which show degrees of comparison, what are the different rules which apply to it. And then finally, of course, we will be doing questions based on the question pattern which is going to appear in your scholarship paper. Alright, so it's going to be a very interesting lesson, and remember, you have to always pause the video when you see a question and try to guess the answer yourself. Alright, so come on, let's start with this lesson number 3.3, and let us discuss and find out what are adjectives and what are the various degrees of comparison as far as adjectives are concerned. So here we start by looking at the parts of speech once again. So we talked about all these parts of speech. We talked about noun, pronoun, and now we are going to talk about, yes, adjectives. Okay, so let's start by understanding what is the meaning of adjectives, and then later on we will talk about the degrees of comparison. So what are adjectives, children? An adjective, it describes a person, a place, or a thing. Okay, so it is something which describes. When we say describes, it means it tells you a quality about a person or a place or a thing. Now, we all learnt in the previous lesson that when we talk about a person, a place or a thing, then which part of speech that is? That is a noun. Okay, so that means adjectives, in a way, they describe what? They describe noun. They tell you more about a noun. So let us see some examples here. So the first example is here. Look at this cat. Okay, now this cat is supposed to be a friendly cat. Now the cat is an animal. Alright, so it is a noun, a common noun. Now this particular cat, it is friendly. That means it will not scratch you or it will not bite you. It will play with you. So it is the quality of the cat that it is friendly. So you're describing the cat and saying that the cat is friendly. Alright, so it is an example of an adjective. The word friendly is an example of an adjective. Let us take one more example here. So you have red potatoes. Alright, now potatoes are vegetables, and now sometimes certain color potatoes could be pale yellow in color. Then there are certain potatoes which are dark brown in color. But now in this particular picture, the potatoes are red in color. So which is the word which is describing the potatoes? It is the word red. Now red is also the name of a color. We say red, blue, green, isn't it? But when the word red is used to describe something, then it becomes an adjective. One last example here on this page, hot coffee. Now you know sometimes coffee can be cold also. People drink cold coffee also. But this particular coffee is not cold. Then it is hot. So the word hot describes the coffee. it tells you more about the coffee. It tells you that you should be careful with this coffee. If you try to drink it in a hurry, you will burn your tongue. So it is hot coffee. So can you see all these words written in yellow? That is friendly, red, hot. All these words are what? They are adjectives. Okay, so an adjective describes a person, a place, or a thing. Now, an adjective can tell you so many things about a person, a place, or a thing. For example, the adjective can tell you more about the color of a person, place, or thing. That is, a color, a thing, or a person could be black, blue, coral, green, pink. So all these words are examples of adjectives. Now, adjective means it can describe the size also. For example, big, huge, large, little, short. All these words describe the size of a particular thing or a place or a person. Alright? Then you have shape. So an adjective can tell you more about the shape of a person, place, or thing. So you have boxy, oval, round, square, triangular, even you can say rectangular, circular. So all these things talk about the shape of a person, place, or thing. Then you have taste. Adjectives also describe the taste of things. For example, you have bitter, sour, sweet, tangy, tarty. Okay? Then the odor. Odor means the smell. So a smell could be flowery, it could be fresh, it could be musty, salty, stinky. Stinky means bad smell. Alright? It could also tell you about the texture. Now, what is a texture? When you touch something, the kind of feel that it gives you. Okay? For example, some things could be bumpy, some things could be furry. Then you have slimy things. You must have seen those kind of, you can say you play with a kind of clay, which is slimy clay. Okay? It feels very funny to touch. Then some things could be smooth. Then you could have things which have squishy texture. Okay? Then adjectives tell you about sound. So sounds can be faint, harmonious, loud, pleasant, quiet. So these could be the types of sounds that you have. Adjectives also tell you about the number. So you have few, 50, many, sparse, two. So all these are adjectives. When I say 2 mangoes, so mangoes is a noun and then 2 is the adjective. It describes the mangoes. How many mangoes? 2 mangoes. And finally, an adjective can tell you more about weather also. For example, the weather could be clear, it could be dry, it could be foggy, rainy, or windy. So these are all the things about a noun that the adjective can tell you or the adjective can describe. For example, it can tell you about the color, size, shape, taste, odor, texture, sound, number, and also about weather. Alright, children? So this was about various examples of adjectives. We only saw it under various headings. Okay? Then we move on and we talk about degrees of comparison in adjectives. So I told you, generally we are going to talk about adjectives, and in particular we are going to talk about degrees of comparison. So come on, let us start and let us see what is the meaning of degrees of comparison in adjectives. So see, definition of degree of comparison is adjectives have 3 different forms to show degrees of comparison. So any adjective can take 3 different forms. Okay? And when do you use these 3 different forms? When we want to compare one person or thing with the other. Now when you go to buy something in the market, okay, for example, when you want to pick up, say, vegetable like a tomato, you go to buy tomatoes. So what do you see? You see, or you try to pick up tomatoes which are more red or which are redder. Alright, you try to pick up tomatoes which are better in shape, in size, etc. So when you want to compare two or more things, then we make use of degrees of comparison. Okay. Now that we know what the meaning of adjective is and what the definition of degree of comparison is, let us move on and learn more about degrees of comparison. So there are three kinds of degrees of comparison. You can compare adjectives in three different ways. Okay, so you have the positive degree of comparison, the comparative degree of comparison, and the superlative degree of comparison. So these are the three degrees of comparison. These are the three ways in which you can make use of adjectives. So you can make use of an adjective in its positive degree, in its comparative degree, and its superlative degree. Alright, now what is the meaning of positive degree, what is the meaning of comparative degree and superlative degree? Let me tell you. So positive means when there is just one thing. Okay, you are not comparing it with any other thing. That is positive. When you compare two different things and when you say one is better than the other, then it is comparative degree. You're comparing. And superlative means what? Superlative means you're declaring that one particular thing is the best. So there you make use of the superlative degree. So these are the three degrees of comparison as far as adjectives are concerned. So now let's take a look at some examples so you will understand better. Okay, so suppose now we compare size of two things of a particular thing with the another thing. So when we talk about size, let's look at the example here. See, this is an apple. Okay, now this is a big apple. Now is there any other apple along with this? No. So there is just this one apple kept on a plate and you're saying that it is a big apple. Alright, there is no other apple with which you can compare this with. So the word big is in the positive degree. Alright, now let us see another apple here. So let's take a look at this particular apple. Now by looking at this apple only, you came to know that this apple, the second one, is bigger than the first one. Okay, so now you have two things here. You're comparing. So this is the comparative degree. Comparative. The first one, there was just one apple in the scene. So you said it is a big apple. Now here there are two and you're comparing these two and you're saying that the second one, the one which you can see this now, the bigger one, it is bigger. So its size is bigger. The first one now becomes small. Okay, but then we are using the word big here. So the first apple is big, the second one is bigger. So the word bigger becomes a comparative degree. Okay, it becomes a comparative degree of comparison. So you understood now, when there is just one, you say positive. When there are two, we say comparative. Now let's come to the next one, the third apple. Now the third apple is bigger than the first one and the second one also. So the third apple is the biggest. So here you're saying that the third apple is the biggest. There is no other apple which is bigger than the third apple here in this picture. Okay, so the word biggest is the superlative degree. Super. There is nothing which is better than this. Okay, so positive degree is big when there is just one thing. Comparative degree is when you compare two things. And superlative degree is when you declare that the thing is the best, or it is the biggest, or it is the largest, depending on the adjective which you are using. Alright, so this in one page, children, is the meaning of the three degrees of comparison: positive, comparative, and superlative. Okay, let's now move on and look at various examples for positive, comparative, and superlative degree. So see, now we have the positive degree here, the comparative degree here, and the superlative degree here. So let's see the examples and read them one by one. So you have dark, darker, darkest. I want you to observe how the words are changing, and then we will point out what the differences are. Then you have brave, braver, bravest. Sweet, sweeter, sweetest. Slow, slower, slowest. Tall, taller, tallest. Long, longer, longest. And finally you have pretty, prettier, prettiest. Okay, so now what did you see? Now dark, it took ER to become the comparative degree and EST to become the superlative degree. Going to the next word, brave. See, brave takes only R in the comparative degree and only ST in the superlative degree. So see, there is a little bit of difference between dark and brave. Dark took ER and EST, whereas brave is taking only R and ST. Whereas, let's take a look at the last word here. You have pretty. Now, pretty is taking IER and IEST, and it is dropping the Y at the same time. Can you see? PRETTY, pretty. Now, Y is nowhere seen in prettier and prettiest. That means the way in which you write the comparative degree and the superlative degree are different for different types of words. That is where we say that there are certain rules, okay, for forming the comparative and superlative degree. Now remember children, whenever we say rule in languages, it is not like the rules in science. Now in science, the rules are fixed. Okay, you cannot change them. Whereas in languages, especially in English, the rules have exceptions all the time. Okay, so in certain places you will see that the rules do not apply. So remember this when we talk about rules in the English language. So now we saw that there are certain differences when we make comparative and superlative degree for different kind of words. So let us take a detailed look at what these differences are. So let's start with an adjective which already ends in an E. So if an adjective already ends in an E, then you add only R or only ST. So you do not add ER and EST. Now for example, let's go quite quickly to the previous page. You will see in most of the cases, children, for example in dark, in sweet, in slow, in tall, in long, we add ER and EST. So commonly to make comparative and superlative degrees, we add ER and EST. But when the adjective already ends in an E, like for example brave that we saw, what do? You only add R and you only add ST because the E is already there. You need not add one more E. Let's take a look at some examples. Here they are. So wide, W-I-D-E, wide. It already has an E there. So for comparative degree, you say W-I-D-E-R, wider. And for the superlative degree, you write widest, W-I-D-E-S-T, widest. Okay, you do not add the ER and the EST. You add only the R and the ST. What about late? Now late also has an E at the end. So it becomes later with an R and latest with an ST. Third is large, L-A-R-G-E, large. So it takes R in the comparative form and it takes ST in the superlative form. So it becomes large, L-A-R-G-E-R, larger, L-A-R-G-E-S-T, largest. So this is one rule. If an adjective already has an E in the end, then you add only the R and the ST. Moving on, let's go to the next type of word. Now, I showed you the word pretty, isn't it? And I said that, see how we have dropped the Y and we have written IER and IEST. So what is the rule for pretty words like that? If an adjective ends with Y, for example, pretty, it ends with a Y. Replace the Y with an I. So you pick up the Y, you pull out the Y from there and you write an I where the Y was written. And then you add ER and EST. Confused? Come on, let's take a look at the examples. So see, busy. B-U-S-Y, busy. What do? You add an I-E-R there. You drop the Y, you add an I. Busier. For busiest, again you drop the Y and you add I-E-S-T. So you replace the Y with the I and then you add ER and EST. The same thing goes for happy. So you have happier and happiest. Dirty, you have dirtier and dirtiest. So if an adjective ends with E, we saw what the rule was. If the adjective ends with Y, we saw what the rule is. Is there anything else to be done? Let's see. Yes. For shorter words ending with a consonant sound. Consonant sound means sound of all the letters of the alphabet except for A, E, I, O, U. So A, E, I, O, U are the vowels and the others are the consonants. Okay. So for words which are short and which end with a consonant sound, double the last letter. So repeat the last letter and then add ER or EST. So when we look at the rule like this, it might be confusing. That is why we have the examples. So example number 1. See, fat, fatter, fattest. So what did we do? It is a short word, fat. Alright. It ends with a consonant sound, the sound of the letter T. That is the T sound. T sound. So you added one more T there. You repeated the last letter and you added ER and you added EST. Okay. Come on. Let's take a look at one more example. You have big, bigger, biggest. See, we repeated the G and we added ER and EST. Finally, you have thin, thinner, thinnest. You repeated the N and you added ER and EST. So for short words ending with a consonant sound, you double the last letter and then you add ER or EST. Coming to one more rule for adjectives of more than 2 syllables. More than 2. Now we have already talked about syllables. Syllable means what? The vowel sounds that you can hear in a word is syllables. Okay. So when there are adjectives with more than 2 syllables, what do? You add more or most before the word. So let's take a look. Here we have it. See, you have faithful, more faithful, most faithful. Beautiful, more beautiful, most beautiful. Industrious, more industrious, most industrious. Courageous, more courageous, most courageous. Active, more active, most active. Attractive, more attractive, most attractive. Okay. So when adjectives have more than 2 syllables, what do? You'd add more or most before the word. Alright. And then now we come to how you form comparative and superlative degree of irregular adjectives. Now there are certain adjectives which do not follow any of these rules. Like I said, for any rule in languages or in English, you always have certain exceptions. So these are the exceptions and you call them as irregular adjectives. Now how do you write irregular adjectives? There are no rules, so you might have to memorize them. So see, bad becomes worse and worst. So see, bad is such a different word, having different spellings, and worse is totally different from bad. But then worse is the comparative degree for bad and worst is the superlative degree for bad. So badly becomes worse and worst. Alright. As far as distance is concerned, far becomes farther and farthest, distance. Whereas far becomes further and furthest. And then you have all the others also. You have good, which becomes better, best. You have ill, which becomes worse, worst. So see, bad is also worst, ill is also worst. Alright, so these are all the different kinds of words which are irregular adjectives. So I will ask you to pause the video here and read all the words properly. Okay children, now we will move on to the part of the lesson where we try and solve certain questions based on the patterns that we have. So what are the types of questions that could be asked? There are just two patterns here in this particular lesson. The first one is identify the word with the correct usage of degree. And the second one is identify the correct option of the given word to fill in the blank. So these are the two options, and as usual I will not be explaining the pattern to you. We will look at certain examples so you will understand what the question means. Okay, so the first question here, identify the word with the correct usage of degree. So which will be the correct word to be used here that you will see, and we will also see an example sentence where we are using that particular adjective. Okay, so see, these are the four adjectives: more better, very better, most better, and better. So which is the correct degree? Is it 1, 2, 3 or 4? Which is the correct one? It is the last one, better. You never say more better, very better, most better. Okay, you say good, then you say better, and then you say best. Okay, so the word better is right. More better, very better, most better is wrong. Let's take a look at the example sentence here. So it is, Tom is getting better. That is, his health is becoming better. Okay, coming to the next example. Drier, more dry, D-R-Y-E-R, drier, and D-R-Y-I-E-R, drier. So which one will be the correct one? Let's check out. Is it 1, 2, 3 or 4? It is, yes, option number 1 is the correct answer. Okay, second is wrong, and the third and fourth, the spellings are wrong. So let's take a look at the example sentence that we have. So it is, the rain will be followed by warmer, drier weather. So after the rain goes, then the weather will become warmer and it will become drier. So it is dry now. It is expected to become drier. Okay, just check out the spelling. Coming to the third example here. More lazy, more pretty, more beautiful, more late. So which one of this more is correct and which are wrong? So let's see, first, second, third or fourth. Which one is right? It is the third one which is right. Okay, more beautiful. You don't say more lazy, you say lazier. Okay, you don't say more pretty, you say prettier. But you say more beautiful. Let's see, here you have the example sentence. Natural places or natural structures are more beautiful than man-made ones. So this again depends. Okay, for some people, going to the valleys and the mountains is a better experience. So for me, seeing valleys and mountains is a better experience. I find that valleys, mountains, hill stations are more beautiful than places like malls or places like theaters, etc. So natural places are more beautiful than man-made ones. Okay, let's go to the next example. We have most bad, worse, baddest, most worse. So come on, let's see which one will be correct. So will it be the second one? Yes, it will be. Okay, and let's check the example sentence. It is, in a few years, the money is gone and they are worse off than before. Worse, worst, and worst. Bad, worse, and worst. Okay,
You don't say bad, badder, baddest. So that is wrong. Most worse is also wrong. So it is bad, worse and worst. So the other three are wrong. Alright, coming to the last example here. Less, more little, littler, littlest. So which one will be the right word? Will it be the first, second, third or fourth one? Let's check out. It will be the first one, less. Less is the right word. You cannot say more little. You cannot say littler and littlest at all. Alright, so this is the example sentence. What is the example sentence? Here it is. We should eat less sugar and salt to keep healthy. So you want to be healthy, you should eat less sugar and less salt. So you should not write more little salt or littler salt or littlest salt. Alright, so these were certain examples for pattern number 1. Let us now move on and do pattern number 2. Identify the correct option of the given word to fill in the blank. So we have a fill in the blank question here. You have to select one word from the option and put it into the blank and see if the sentence is right. So here is the example sentence for you. One of the dash features of this world is human life. So the word is amazing. Now you have to see which form of this word will be correct. So will it be one of the amazing features of this world is human life, one of the as amazing features, one of the most amazing features, or one of the amazed features? So which one will fit in here? Will it be first, second, third or fourth? It will be the third one. One of the most amazing features, okay, of this world is human life. Alright, moving on to question number 7 in this video. This program made the children dash than ever. So whenever you make the word, use the word than, that means you're comparing, you're using the comparative degree. So what will be the option here? Will it be more anxious, most anxious, anxious only, or anxiouser? So what will be the correct answer? It will be the first one, more anxious. Okay, why? Because it is in the comparative form. More anxious than ever. This program made the children more anxious than ever. Coming to the 8th question here. The story of Sudha Chandran's life is itself an dash adventure. So the base word is inspire. So will you say inspired adventure, inspiring adventure, more inspiring adventure, most inspiring adventure? What will be the word that you will use here? It will be option number 2, inspiring adventure. Okay, when they say one of the, then you say most. Otherwise you say inspiring. Alright, coming to the second last question here in this video. The girl thought that the dash thing she could do was sleep. So wise is the base word here. So will you say the more wise thing she could do was sleep, the more wisest thing she could do was sleep, the more wisest thing she could do was sleep, or the wisest thing she could do was sleep? So it is answer number 4, wisest. So the girl thought that the wisest thing she could do was sleep. Alright, now we come to the last example here in this video. They were dash than the lion. Now the base word is big, and I told you whenever there is the word than, then you make use of the comparative degree. So let's see what are the options that we have. So they were bigger than the lion, they were as bigger than the lion, they were biggest than the lion, they were big than the lion. So which one could be the correct answer, children? It will be the first option. They were bigger than the lion. Alright, So this was our lesson based on the topic adjectives, and in particular we talked about the degrees of comparison. We discovered that degrees of comparison could be of 3 types. That is, when you compare the adjectives, when you compare the qualities of the noun, then you make use of these 3 types of adjectives or 3 forms of adjectives, which are called as the 3 degrees of comparison. Okay, we looked at the example of the apple, where you have one apple, you call it big. When there are 2 apples, you call the bigger one, the one which is bigger in size, as bigger. And when you have 3 apples, you call the one which has got the biggest size as the biggest. Okay, so that is about the lesson. And we also looked at the patterns. That is, we have 2 patterns of questions, and we tried to solve certain examples based on each pattern. Now what will you do, children? After you finish watching the video, take a look at the tasks which I have set for you and try to do those tasks also.
So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.